Drake, let's talk a little bit about this NIL clearinghouse. We've heard reports that they will be the checks and balances. Not reports, it's pretty official now. They'll be the checks and balances for our NIL landscape, our NIL future. Is this a real thing? Because I have a couple of questions about the in actuality part of this, like how this will actually work. Will there really be a cap? Will there be creative workarounds? Or will this just go to court and will no longer be a thing? What are your thoughts on this NIL clearinghouse?
TJ, NIL is dead. The way that we know NIL and how we have known it for the last few years is gone. There is no more NIL the way that you expect it. There are different sites where you could go on and click a couple buttons and donate $10,000 to your favorite player. That is gone. Now donors cannot be involved hands-on with athletes any longer. There can't be the owner of some NFL team that wants to pitch in for $1 million to buy you a quarterback. He can no longer do that. From now on, Deloitte, the accounting firm Deloitte, is going to step in and vet every NIL deal that universities, student athletes, agents come up with. And if there's a hint of fishy nature to these, if there's a hint of maybe somebody with a lot of vested interest as a personality who wouldn't gain from this student athlete getting an NIL deal will receive one, those will be canceled out. Deloitte will say no and turn away possibly millions of dollars to student athletes. And they have a valuation deal too. Are you going to make more money? Do they believe, Deloitte believes that your backup lineman is worth $500,000. He gets $1 million offer. There are so many intricacies of how schools may have to back pay over NIL deals or revenue sharing deals that are unfair based on market value. Now, does any of that make sense to you, Jerry from Cuero, Texas? Maybe not, and it probably shouldn't. And guess why it doesn't make sense to you? Because it's not common sense. Because it's not something that is objective. It can't be substantiated by Deloitte. They're going to subjectively look at case by case and go, sure, no, yeah. And for all intents and purposes, the idea here is that the big dogs, the name Tyson, or in Baylor's case, the name Hurd. Mark Hurd was the CEO of Oracle for a long time, gives a ton of money. Texas Tech, Cody Campbell. That these massive names, these big-time donors, can no longer give money. For BYU, it's the owner of the Utah Jazz, can no longer give money out of their own pocket directly to players. That sounds well and good. That sounds like it's going to help even out college football because now Alabama's top donor can't just give $2 million to their quarterback and make Alabama the best school every year. But the issue is we're looking at more subjectivity when we understand what is past and what is not. So if my name is Drake Toll and I want to give Baylor softball player Lila Toll a $2 million NIL deal, I cannot do that. Deloitte will block it immediately. They say this is a private donor and this individual donor cannot give NIL funds directly to a player. Great. I'm Drake Toll. I own an LLC. It's called Toll Marketing. It's a true story. And I want to give $2 million via Toll Marketing to Lila Toll for a set of videos she'll make promoting my business. Now what? Now what? What can the clearinghouse do? What can the College Sports Commission or the CSC or whatever they're calling this thing, Cody Campbell and Nick Saban, what can they do to deny me that? Now have I found a loophole as a donor to still give the same amount of money to the same kid? Have I found a loophole to make sure that college football stays weighted in one direction and Auburn can still be better than, let's say, TCU? Probably. And how can you justify as Deloitte that Auburn can't have that deal, but TCU can, or vice versa? What we have gotten ourselves into, and I've heard from multiple sources who have spoken anonymously, that when this first was brought up, and the commissioners are at the table, everybody's at the table, and they're saying, okay, I guess we'll use an accounting firm. Why not Deloitte? Then the idea was immediately pitched. We'll go on market valuation. We'll say, hey, your market value for this player at this university for this position is X. And everybody's like, okay, that kind of makes sense. So now we can do it similar to the NFL, where running backs make a certain number, quarterbacks make another number. And when they all nodded and agreed, they decided, hey, the next step is figuring out what that valuation is and who sets it. And no one could. There's been no, like, everybody's looking around at each other going, okay, well, who makes that valuation? The coaches? the administrators, the commissioners, the actual Deloitte, this governing body, who does it? There is so much confusion here, TJ. When I sent you this tweet from Ross Dellinger that kind of outlined what the website's going to look like and how they're going to accept these NIL deals and then vet them from there, you immediately responded something along the lines of, "Well, that'll never happen." And I think you're right. If there's anything you take away from the last 3 minutes of this spiel, is so much of this is filled with holes. Like there are just too many holes poked in this for it to go through in its current format.
Yeah, it's tough to now. In a perfect world, do I think it'd be great for college football if we stayed around the cap of $20 million for an athletic program? Hey, you want to spend a little more on hoops? You want to spend a little more on softball? You want to spend a little more on baseball, or what most programs I assume would do? You want to spend a little more on football? Sure, great. It's your $20 million. You build your athletic program the way you want to, right? Do I think that'd be a great thing for college athletics? Yes, I do. I absolutely do. I think the number is probably pretty fair. I know people would probably argue, oh, well, this guy's making this and this is making whatever, right? If you think that the number should be higher based on the revenue generated, fine, whatever. I don't really care. That's a different argument for a different day. Do I think that'd be good for college athletics? Yes. My answer to that is yes. I think that'd be very good. Everybody is playing about like the NFL. You'd have years where it would send things back to where good recruiters just recruit. It's not just who's the richest, right? It's not just who's the best. It's not just the most story. It would help all avenues of college athletics. However, I think it's very pie in the sky. I don't see a situation where Deloitte flags something, right? You want to pay your sister $2 million to make 4 videos, and they say, that's not really in line with any deal that we've ever seen in the National Football League, right? For you go to the NFL, and those guys aren't making $2 million for 4 60-second TikTok reels, right? Or TikTok, whatever, TikToks. Too old to even know what they're called. I think they'd flag that, right? They'd say, pump the brakes here just a little bit. And I do believe, now I don't know your sister, so I don't want to say her specifically, but I do believe that immediately when that happens, when Jeremiah Smith is told like, hey, no, you can't make $6 million this year, bingo, I think he's immediately going to say, all right, we're going to court. Because you can't tell some rich booster or some rich booster's company how much money they can pay somebody. If I want to pay Locked On Big 12 $4 million right now, nobody can stop me from doing that other than my wife in the other room. And the number of zeros in my bank account might stop, Bank of America might stop me too. But if nobody can tell some rich booster what they can and can't pay. And nobody can tell Jeremiah Smith how much money he can or can't accept. We live in a free market. Now, you may hate that. You may think that's stupid. Whatever. I think when it gets to the courts are going to say, yeah, you don't have an antitrust exemption. This hasn't been collectively bargained. These players want to make this much money. They got somebody that wants to pay them this much money. You think it's unreasonable for them to get $4 million or $5 million to make 3 TikToks? So what? That's what they're paying it for, right? Like that's what their price is. And I think it's going to go to court, and I think ultimately the players will win. Until this gets collectively bargained, until players become employees, which, yes, there are massive issues with that as well. I'm not saying that is a great thing, but for this specific scenario, this is not going to hold up, in my opinion. Now, I would love to be wrong on this. There is no doubt in my mind that I would love to be wrong on this. Maybe the only thing I'd love to be wrong on more is who I think wins Alabama and Florida State's opening weekend. But I would love to be wrong on this, and I would love for this to get reshared and people to call me an idiot and say you had no clue what you were talking about, because I think ultimately it would be good for college football. It would be good for the sport I enjoy watching. People say, oh, well, is it what's best for the kids? Listen, I don't want to say I don't care, because I do. I think it's right for them to get paid. But I'm talking from my perspective. I'm talking about watching football on Saturdays and following this sport. For me, it would be best if this worked out. I just don't think it will.
TJ, I'll leave you with this. The second that they don't let me pay my sister $2 million, which I don't have, but if I did dig up gold outside of my hotel room right here and I could keep that liquid gold, I would go straight to the United States government. They are actually the governing body of the entire country in all things, and say, excuse me, Sherman Antitrust Act. I'd point to something here and say, You've told me that, free trade and through capitalism that I can pay whoever I want to pay, however much for my, the same reason that if I was to get my floors redone in Valonia, Arkansas, or the middle of Los Angeles County, California, it's probably a $10,000 difference on the same job. Why? Because that's how so there are so many semantics to get into with this. It's just not legal. You can't be like, hey, I want to give my employee a raise, and the government say, or your entity say no, and the government be like, yeah, whatever. I guess you can't give them that raise. It's not going to work.
Yeah. And it surprises me that so many people buy into this like it's going to work, whether they be athletic directors or conference commissioners or whatever.
Sure.
It surprises me that maybe we're the dumb ones, Drake. I don't know, but it surprises me that more people think that this is actually going to happen. It surprises me that people actually buy into this crap, that it's going to help. Now, does it maybe slow it down for maybe the first player that gets, rejected or denied doesn't go sue? Maybe the second player does. But very quickly, I think this is going to go right back to the courts, and I think it's going to get blown up. So, yeah, it sounds good. But I don't see it. So we'll see. Drake, I appreciate you for hanging out. Drake C. Toll, Locked On Big 12. Find him on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, all those places. And then on social media at Drake C. Toll. Drake, I appreciate you, buddy.
Always fun, TJ.